My name's Allison Michels. I am actually in the product group for Viva Engage, and I have about 1 million slides that I want to walk through today. But actually, based on who's in the room, I can happily choose your own adventure. There's a couple things I wanted to share and hear from you guys about if you've used Viva Engage or if you've heard of the other product that shall not be named, or I don't know. But just wondering if you guys have experience. And then honestly, as of about kind of this week, the Engage team now directly sits under the Teams org, which is incredible and it's super fun. And I'm happy to show you some things that are going to be rolling out really soon in June that we're really excited about. A lot of stuff maybe you're starting to see in some public preview with kind of communities kind of really baking in. But we've got some really great things happening with events and kind of the town halls and the live events pieces, kind of working with our brothers and sisters over in Teams. And then we also have some really cool SharePoint stuff too that's coming that I'm happy to show and share as well. So just curious what your guys' experience is with either Yammer or Viva Engage or you want to go ahead and kind of just... Yeah. Great. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So we'll definitely have to stay in touch. I have a lot of, I'll say maybe competitors and also stepways of customers just like you who are using Engage in really cool ways, especially for their frontline, because their frontline loves to kind of connect and do that social capability. What about you?
Well, I
Junk drawer. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
like other what
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Great. So Yammer was a junk drawer, lots of different experiences. And also, what does this look like kind of coming together in a world of teams and kind of that experience for the employees for sure. What about you?
so I looked at myself up
Yeah.
about it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that but
Yeah. Okay.
plus and so like how if it from Microsoft I don't
Obviously. Yes. Yes. A Microsoft Know-it-all. Got it.
I have but
Yeah. 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 Great. And it's really interesting. I'll kind of set the stage a little bit and then I'll show you some screenshots and I'm happy to demo things too. Typically I'm a demo monkey. I have a million slides, but I love to do the demo. So depending on where this recording goes and all of that, I'm happy to show and share what I can. But what I think is really important is one, you guys are all from kind of like the more technical space, but a lot of my days I'm spending with the corporate communications team and so many customers kind of from across the world. And this has kind of been a really interesting shift for them as they think of one, do I just place it on the intranet and people go and find things? How do I communicate? And then, or I spray and pray, right? Like they post it everywhere and that they hope that people kind of see it, react. Or you kind of get the opposite. And then you have said, well, I need to post this on Engage, but don't allow comments or don't allow, and it's kind of like, well, that's kind of like the point. And so kind of really helping these corp comms folks in so many different customers. I was with a customer this morning and they just the ability to get messages in email and on Teams that kind of just blew their mind. And to me, that's like conversations that I feel like we've kind of been having for the last few years. But for corporate communications, where they're using like maybe a staff base or a Marketo or something like that to blast it, or to set it on the internet shelf and hope that somebody reads it, that's a very different mindset for them. So kind of the thing that I work with a lot of corp comms teams and the IT folks is to like build the bridge a little bit better of, kind of give those corp comms people a little bit more access. And we have roles for them within the product now that, you probably wouldn't give them admin access in Teams, right? And so it's kind of like you're giving these corp comms, a little bit of keys to the kingdom so they can help manage and control some of the conversations, whether it's especially for the front line, whether it's moderation and things like that. Whereas, some of the IT stuff can moderate at certain parts, but some of it's just they want to know what's trending, what's popping after an all hands and things like that. So, anyways, the other kind of piece of this that I'll say, and I'll show you this too, is that when we think about from an engaged perspective, all the conversations, it's typically the most public place for an organization. And I say that in a conversation and a community level. A lot of it's happening in public communities or even private communities that are pretty large. Whereas in a Teams world, the chats and channels, you have to be invited in versus like more of an open space. So for better or worse, it's a little bit more public. And then that also means that we actually are a grounding source for Copilot as well. So if somebody has a Microsoft 365 Copilot license and asks Copilot a question, and the conversation is already happening or has been asked or answered in Engage, it'll pull that over too within Copilot. Of course, it's going to, see all your different permissions and things like that. And I say that because especially for, and I keep going back to the corp comm stuff, but especially for corporate communicators is when your employees are asking Copilot something, it's going to reason over their like communications or their messages. And it's not going to just like make something up or reference a support doc or some like SOP. It's actually going to reference like the CEO's message from last week. And so it kind of gives the comms team a second life for their communications in a way that they've never had this before. They can't even think like this, which has been a really interesting, I'll say, journey. Because when I talk with corp comms, they're like, but I want the click-through rate. And I'm like, yes, we have that. And also that's very 2024 of you. Like, let's like think about like what else can we pull from that data and those conversations. So anyways, I think
That's the hardest thing. Marty. Okay.
one of my favorite things to do when I'm on a customer call is to ask my account team how many times they go to the intranet. And most of them are like, the what? And they're like, which one? And I'm like, oh, it's called MSW. At Microsoft, it's called MSW. We pin it in Teams. It's kind of and they were like, what? So it's really interesting. And we know this. People live and breathe in Teams. They live and breathe in their Outlook, some of them. And so we know that, kind of getting that reach and engagement through those platforms is really kind of where you're going to be. Not that the internet's going away, but in my mind, it's like the bookshelf, right? I can go and search through it. We have the data that shows, especially at Microsoft, the comms team knows that the people are going to the internet to find something, but they don't stay there. They're not like actually reading. The comments are, it's kind of, a little bit different. So I've talked about corp comms. We're going to talk a little bit about communities. Communities is kind of at the heart of what Engage has been around for many, many years, the communities of practice. We've just got some incredible examples at Microsoft and of course our customers too, where people are spinning up communities overnight because a brand new AI tool just got launched or released and nobody knows anything about this tool. And so they're creating a space. This has literally happened a couple of weeks ago at Microsoft. Something was announced overnight. They had 30,000 people join this community and, just lots of employees asking lots of questions. So I'll show you what some of this can look like, but now you can have agents within the communities kind of helping to kind of facilitate that Q&A as well. Of course, people love a pet community. I think those are also really popular and fun and photography. And, you kind of have to have the top down, bottom up. What I always tell my customers is, if you only have the top down leadership communities, which is honestly where a lot of our customers are kind of really moving towards, is to have that two-way dialogue. It kind of feels like you're at a party with your parents. And so you need that fun and a little bit more of that creativity as well as, your business and departments as well. And then the last one is the knowledge piece. We have quite a bit of capabilities already built into Engage, and then also kind of incoming with Copilot with this agent, this Q&A, especially for the frontline. A lot of my frontline customers are using this where they're asking a question and searching all the questions that have already been asked and answered. So either one, the person doesn't even have to ask the question again, or it kind of points you in the right direction or kind of points you in that way. And so these things, we're kind of I feel like we started from a very social perspective and kind of continue to fill these, we call them user jobs at Microsoft as well, kind of this leaders, communities, and knowledge. And then I will say, and all of this is available natively within Teams, which is super exciting. So, okay, I heard where you guys are kind of at with Engage. But I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about kind of where we're off to next. And I mentioned a little bit about this, but I wanted to kind of show you. This is, so hopefully this is going to play. So this is available right now in public preview. This is coming to everyone in about June, but we're building this chats, channels, and communities are kind of coming really quickly into Teams. We've been using this at Microsoft with, I think like last fall, we started to introduce this, and it just went out to everybody in public preview about 2 weeks ago. And the early data is really exciting. We're seeing more engagement, and it's just adding one less layer of friction. In the past, Engage has been this app in Teams. And you know, my customers always ask me, they're like, I want the red dot. And I'm like, do you? Do you want the red dot? And so now we're kind of bringing this more closely. So it's less of a place to go, less of a destination, kind of right within that left rail. It will just show up unless you've auto disabled it. Yep. And it's in the Teams admin panel. There's under Engage Experiences, and you can kind of toggle on, toggle off. If your employees have favorited communities, they're going to pull over to their favorites. And then, of course, they can move these however they want. And side note, Teams data, nobody moves anything. I have mine all the way kind of sliced and diced in all different ways, but apparently most end users don't know how to do that. So it's fine. Yep. But you'll be able to kind of do this. The one part I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about is some of the behavior differences when you kind of create this experience is when there is new messages, we're going to honor the team's behavior and just bold the community instead of adding to the red dot, right? So instead of adding to the red dot, we'll just bold the community to let you know there are new messages. If there's a new announcement and somebody's pushing a message, then it'll kind of go into the activity feed, and then you can react and reply directly from there. So that will kind of still push out a notification. But at this point, we feel like if we give you a red dot for every new message in a community, it'll be far too much. Thoughts on that?
You don't know whether collect for everything.
Nothing. Yes. Truly. Def mute. Yeah. And we find that's pretty interesting because some of our frontline customers, they want that red dot for their frontline to be alerted for new messages. And that's kind of what we keep saying is like, and so we're kind of pulling through with that perspective.
Very nice to be able to.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, exactly. So this is actually Engage, kind of that communities experience is already available on mobile. We actually started there and kind of brought it in first there. So you can already see chats, channels, and communities kind of within there. There's also an app in Teams. You can rename it. A lot of my frontline customers do that as well. They kind of simplify Teams very much for the frontline. And then, of course, you can mix your chats and channels. Curious for you all from a chats and channels perspective and then a communities perspective, we've kind of adhered to like the same visual cue on there. But I've heard from some customers saying it would be nice to know if it was a community or a channel. You can very clearly tell when you click in the difference, but wondering if like a visual cue would help, or does it even matter? I don't know if it matters or not. Moral says, should there be a more of a visual cue of the difference, or does it even matter?
Hang it. Many.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a
yeah, and pull it through.
look.
Yeah,
You're not looking at off. Yeah.
truly. And you just mute it and never see it again. I also think what is interesting to me is when you click on like a channel, it doesn't look like this. Like there's like the header and the things like that. The other pieces too is like you'll be able to pull like make official communities and things like that, especially for those corp comms, very like top level communities. Those can kind of be a little bit more branded and show up here as well. So yeah, we're really excited about this. I feel like from a product perspective, we've been working on this for like 2 or 3 years. And if you've been around for a long time, which sounds like you guys have in the Microsoft world, just, kind of moving things some things move really fast. Some things are really complicated kind of behind the scenes. And we've tried to work really hard with the Teams team. So honestly, your end users they don't need to know where the conversations are coming from. They just need to know it's a community and they can have those conversations regardless of what app or what product name it really is from a Microsoft perspective.
It happened to me.
We lose. Yeah.
Because I don't really.
Yeah.
So if you're always
And I'll tell you what I think, but our data scientists are going to argue me all day. But what I see happening already is when we're using this at Microsoft, we have an employee news and events community. A lot of the conversations are leader led. Typically, we are not sending emails out really, truly anymore to all company. And what I see is when the conversation starts and post and engage, I actually see leader to leader conversation happening in those conversations more so now when it's closer than I ever saw before. And I can't tell, are they interacting in Teams? Are they interacting in Outlook? Like where they're interacting from? But I'm seeing responses of leaders that I've never seen before respond to posts that I've never seen them show up in conversations before. But I think because it's easier for them and they can do it directly from the notification, I think it's been a really big change. My data science say it's the same. And I'm like, I don't think so. Just because it's a little closer.
like, like
Mhm.
that's
Yeah,
the guy.
for sure. And especially with all company and like our ability for communities, we can do a lot more people than a channel can. So yeah, go ahead.
To events God.
Yeah, I will get to it next. Yep. He's asking about events, and that is in two slides because we just GA'd this like last week, so super excited. I know when I was like, I actually have lots to talk about here. The kind of the next piece I'll kind of say is for notifications. Something that we're doing that like cool is we're learning the user behavior and then sending out the messages where they interact with the conversations the most. And so today, if somebody posts an announcement, it's kind of blasted everywhere, and that's how we get the reach. And we released this probably earlier this year, and now it will go to your first channel of where you consume most frequently. And then after that, then it will go kind of to your second most frequent channel of consumption. And it's only sent there if you haven't already seen it. So we're trying to be a little bit smarter with like blasting notifications. This is specific to community announcements, but we actually just rolled this out to also app mentions and replies too, because nobody wants to get stuck in that thread of like, welcome, welcome. And then you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm still in that message and I'm still in that long thread. So we're working through how can we do this. I'll say this is pretty cool because we're using AI to kind of be smarter about the notification delivery. And what we see is when going back to your point, if everything's and then nothing is, and that's kind of what we were seeing is people were starting to tune out, especially in teams and things like that. And so when we deliver this in their right modality the first time, we're actually seeing higher engagement. But Corp Comms gets a little nervous because it's like, but you said I had control over the reach and I just want to, blast this over everything. And what we're trying to kind of work with them saying like, actually, this doesn't take away your reach. This gives you more power because you're not inundating people with the same message in 3 different channels. Yeah, honestly, at this point. So, and then the next piece is the event. So great tie-in, Eric, love that. We do have events hosted in Engage kind of with that community construct, whether it's the town hall with everybody, like a very broadcast type of event, or you can host a community event. That's the new piece where you can have up to about, I think, 1,000 people in a meeting right within a community as well. So a lot of our customers are doing that for their Copilot communities. They have Copilot communities. They're saying, hey, we're just going to do coffee and Copilot. Come for 15 minutes or whatever it is. And they're just offering it to the community. Any community member can join. It's recorded, it's posted, and then the content conversations, all those questions kind of live within that community. Of course, all of it becomes search and available throughout Copilot. I feel like the community kind of acts as a your invite list. So you don't have to invite everybody. And then the engagement, you have the ability to moderate questions ahead of time. Our team does this at the broadest level, the Satya level town halls, as well, all the way down to like the department level, ask me anythings as well. So people can ask questions ahead of time. They can launch the live event or the event right within the community. And it's all powered by Teams kind of in the back end. And then the conversations kind of stay with that as well. I have a video of that. It's a little bit long, so just hang with me for a second. But you can create the video. And what I am working with a lot of comms teams is they're like, our CEO wants to do an AMA. But like also we're like terrified of doing an AMA and like really asking people to like ask any questions. So how do we moderate and how do we do this? This kind of allows for that as well. So you have the ability to broadcast or do a meeting. The meeting is a new one with kind of that interaction with teams. Who can attend, anyone, or private only community members, especially if it's a private community, it'll respect that. This is the moderation. This is the moderation piece where you can decide how you want employees to ask the questions. Super easy asking questions. We actually hosted one this morning with some of our new leadership, and people could upvote and kind of ask the questions. You can see the conversation right there, or the calendar invite right there on your inbox. And what I like about these events, especially hosting them in Engage, is they're not only great for the people who work at your company today, but they're also there for whoever comes tomorrow, and who all your new hires that are kind of coming in at the end or after that as well. So they're promoting a Copilot, tips and tricks. You can say, hey, community, come join this event, and people can add it to their calendars. Here's like the time for the event. This is the message in Outlook. So you can react and reply directly from Outlook. You would not believe how much this blows the corp comms people's minds. Is like, yeah, it's the same. add to calendar. That's like a huge customer request. Or like, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. Um, yeah,
You'll
internal only. Yeah.
never
If you have external people within the community, you could add them to there. And then coming this summer, you're going to be able to add external presenters. So,
yeah.
huh? Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Today. So for example, we have a customer community that has about 1,500 customers in it of all different domains. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
often
Uh-huh.
spot off.
Not yet, but some of the AI pieces that our team is working on for events, that is definitely one that we're thinking about for sure. Yep. Yep. It'll probably be likely more close to the fall or the end of the year. Yeah. Definitely thinking about that. Yeah, the question was about bots with events. The other piece about kind of the AI piece with the events is being able to snip a piece of an event and then have like a social share, right? I want to do a trailer, or I want to like create something from a 45-minute town hall, right? So we're going to be working on that of like, how can we do that with like the clip champs, the streams, all that, create a snip and then be able to share it out too. So that'll be really, really, really neat. Um,
That like uh, that
yeah.
it's in
Uh,
that it
internal. Yeah.
get hurt that um
I don't know yet.
I mean
Yeah.
they think
Yeah.
sure enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back.
The yeah. If you haven't seen this, this is just a snapshot of what's coming in Teams. I don't know if they showed this in the Teams. What's new here, or if you were or anyways. But basically, there's going to be a new events app. Meet is turning into events. And it's going to be a collection because we love a rebrand. It'll be a collection of all meetings with like this discover page of where are those events happening. Here's like one open for Q&A and here's registration. They also want to include like a little bit of social proof, right? Of like, oh, so and so and so and so are registered for this. You would like this too. Kind of like bring that a little bit up, especially if they're hosted in public communities. It shouldn't be any reason of why. And then obviously like the live, like you could join live. So kind of bringing this all together. I think our customers have been asking for this forever. So kind of again, going back to like, regardless of where your event is hosted, whether it's an Engage or Teams or all this stuff, we're kind of pulling it together with one view. And I'll say, especially with us being in the Teams org now, hopefully this is just going to get tighter and tighter from a lot of great partnership with them. So, yeah, I think this is slated for fall. Something I wanted to kind of dig into a little bit was kind of some of the Copilot pieces. And if you haven't seen some of this, this is, we obviously have Copilot within Viva Engage and kind of, you have the ability, if you have the M365 Copilot license, you have the ability to kind of reason over the content, conversations. I manage a community. What should I be posting? What are people talking about? You have the ability to kind of do that already today within Copilot, writing assistance, catch me up, get me a summary of that. So that's kind of like already available today. But what I see from so many of my customers is people are still in the basics. Like we are still teaching people how to prompt, which is super interesting to me because I feel like from a tech perspective and the IT folks, you guys are like leapfrogs ahead of kind of still where those end users are of like very, very teach me how to be productive with some of these AI tools. So we kind of use a variety of tools within Engage for that. And then on the opposite end of this is the Engage content then also becomes a grounding source for M365 Copilot. So like I was saying, if somebody's asking Copilot a question, it's already been asked and answered either in an event or a town hall or anything of those conversations, it'll pull that as a reference point because it's grounded in that content too. So again, it's like giving those content and conversations kind of that second life. Right now, this is already available. Coming next is private communities. We started with those big public communities and kind of I think by summer, the private communities, obviously scoped if you have access to those as well, you would have the ability for that. So like I did this for a comms conference a couple of months ago and we actually said something about the CEO and we kind of queried it and it referenced some of the earlier communications that he had done in Engage. And so it was like, okay, see comms people, you're not just writing for humans to ingest, now you're writing for AI to ingest your content and conversation. So it was a really interesting conversation as well. Questions about that? Any thoughts? Good?
I'm just talking about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
What?
Mhm.
On
Yeah.
board.
Yep. Mhm. Based on real human interaction. Yep. Mhm. Yeah. This is kind of what it's all these buckets that kind of like ladder up into it. Exactly. Exactly that. The two other last points about the Copilot conversations, whether it's with you or your customers, is this Copilot adoption community. We have this ready-made out of the box. You have the ability to kind of just launch it from your admin panels to launch this Copilot community. And this is going to suggest membership based on your M365 Copilot license. We also put in content about weekly, pulling from public sources, and that your people who are responsible for adoption can edit, review, draft, schedule, whatever they need to do and kind of send this out. For us, this has been a huge game changer because the adoption people cannot keep up with all the different content. And a lot of this content is, I'll say it's either you could do the long form about something that's very specific to your organization. We have prompt of the week campaigns that go on. So we're giving you things that have worked really well at Microsoft to lift and shift. You can edit, draft, and really post this as well. Prompt of the week goes out every week, and you can do this. We're also mixing in content with Copilot Chat because we know a lot of organizations don't have the M365 Copilot license. So we also have Copilot Chat content in that suggested content as well. And here's just the example of this was like actually a real example that we pulled from the Microsoft network of, kind of the question and then, the different types of responses and then kind of pulling. And then I could either upvote, mark as official, things like that from that content too. So anybody can do this. This is available today. This has probably been out for maybe last summer. It was gated behind the M365 Copilot license, and then we just opened it up for everyone because we were like, this is so great. Peer-to-peer learning is so important for like learning something like Copilot. And we just really felt like it was necessary to kind of move it forward. I'll kind of jump one more place, and then I might jump back to this Copilot piece. But I'll kind of sit here for a second. We do have the ability to create agents within the communities. I kind of alluded to that at the beginning, but you do have the ability to create an agent that will start with the conversations in your community as a grounding source. You can add SharePoint as grounding sources. You can also add, coming next is public websites as grounding sources as well. And the different reference materials. So you'll be able to kind of do that. This is in public preview right now, But if somebody asks a question, the agent is going to kind of, I'll say, build momentum off of what's already happened in the community and draft an answer. It's going to go to the admins to kind of edit, review, decide whether or not that's a good answer. And you can edit or approve the answer. And then the answer is posted within the community. And it's really clear about like, this was an agent generated response, or this was verified by a human, kind of pulling this together. We have quite a few customers using this, especially in their very high active Q&A communities. This has really been really helpful. And there's like a page where you can go and review all the questions. You can review all the agents' responses. I think it's still a little bit too verbose because I'm like, I would never say this in a community. It's very, it's very casual and chatty and things like that. So we're working on that of like, we don't need this to be like the end all be all resource of a response, but also how can we make sure that it's like validated and true, and especially if it has that like verified. Have you guys tried any of the community agents at all? I don't know. Whoever is a community admin has to have an M365 Copilot license. So that's kind of how the licensing works for that. Not the entire community has to have it. What I think is really interesting about this is, especially for some of my customers, this agent is like the most visible public agent for a community or for employees. Because like typically your agents are within yourself or within a chat or within a meeting or very like contained. This is a very visible agent for like the example I shared of the 30,000 people overnight. Like if you get that wrong and 30,000 people can see that response, like that's a pretty big deal. Also, especially for brand new users who haven't really interacted with agents, maybe outside of a chat bot or something like that, that's a pretty interesting kind of perspective. So especially from an employee experience perspective, I'm always trying to think of like, hey, this is different than like someone's personal agent. This is a very public one that lots of people can see. So like, let's have some guardrails around this and things like that. Questions about the agent at all? I am always telling my customers, start it off with this, just start it in your Copilot community, at least it kind of feels a little bit meta, but then you can at least start kind of seeing what it looks like and kind of the answers and the responses as well. All right. Kind of the next piece I just wanted to end with was, I feel like we're always talking about agents in at Microsoft and all these different pieces. I wanted to just show you. We've been working with a couple of customers and kind of deciding and just brainstorming about if you had the ability, like what would you have agents create and where would you, do this, especially thinking for like your corp comms people or I'll say your least technical people, like what could they start to do with some of agents like this? And so we've created, step-by-step guides, but, really thinking about how can you do this with no code. You can create agents that will help them manage communities. Again, especially in these really large communities, I manage one that's about 5,000 people, and I can hardly keep up with that. And that feels like a lot of people. And so I am using like this community welcomer one, especially for our customer community, when new customers get added and things like that. So there's lots of our customers are being really creative right now with how they're building agents kind of on top of the community. So we have out of the box ones that will do that, the Q&A, and then kind of coming, customers are really playing around with how else can they use that community management one as well. All right. I have a couple other things to show you, mostly from an analytics perspective and things like that. But one of the kind of the last pieces, actually, I'll show you two more things. Yeah.
So that, but
yeah.
So, like that, product,
yeah.
Like, yeah, doc, that,
uh-huh.
Good.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think that helps in build.
Good. Yeah.
Oh, right. Great.
I'm like, what's the future of that site? It should just be in it, right? We should just have an agent that helps you. That's what I want. Because I just created a bunch of content. And I'm like, nobody's going to look at that. Like, I'm like, dang. But yeah.
We should get. So I deployed.
Yeah.
I I
Yeah.
and we had I. That is so old school.
Right? 2024 call. They want their, yeah.
Having
Yeah. Yeah. And then also, too, it doesn't fall only to you to answer, or yeah, I love it. You guys should see my out of office tomorrow. I'm celebrating and going to Costa Rica. And so my out of office is literally going to be like post to the community because there's more people that can answer than them just pinging me. So I know, don't feel bad for me. I get to leave this.
the thing we've had no great. Art,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
and so and having that is
Yeah.
quite just some of the questions.
Yeah. Over and over again. Yeah. That's a great idea.
Value.
Yeah. I love it. Great. Kind of this is helpful for you all as more of the technical perspective, but we're building, I'll say, flexibility with some of the community membership management right now. You can build dynamic communities based off dynamic groups and kind of the M365 groups. And what we see is that works well enough for about 75% of the groups and communities that live. However, there's always like that one marketing person who's not actually in HR, but needs to be in the HR community, and you have all the accept and the rules. So we're kind of building this directly within product to make it really simple for communicators to be able to do that versus having to like think through, okay, if I'm in Azure and I got to add and do all these pieces to kind of allow for a little bit of flexibility within those communities. So, I think you could have like, of course, you can base it off of your M365 groups, but then you might have a couple outliers or you only want these people in this specific region or location. You can do that as well. So that's coming. We're working on that right now. I think it should be out by the summer. And then I'll show you. This is something that I think is really interesting. This is kind of future and what we're thinking about. And I don't know how much it's been talked about here at this conference, but we're talking a lot about internally this like the concept of MCP and like what comes next and like how to kind of do a lot of that data. We actually have a lot of analytics already available for customers. They can export it, they can do Power BI, they can do whatever they want with it. And we're really trying to kind of give you all a baseline. And then this is just an output of some sample that we did with some MCP work. And we're trying to think through of like, what are we going to give to you all to be able to do against your own and kind of what are you going to be able to build? But what's been really fun to watch is like our senior leadership team is doing the coding and they're doing the work on the MCP in like, they haven't done this in decades, right? Like they haven't like coded and done some of this. And I don't know if it's technically coding or not, but what they're creating based on some of the MCPs is so cool. And so we're going to be working through with customers and with partners and people like you all of trying to figure out what we're going to make available for you guys to kind of go crazy with, basically. So that'll come. So we're going to take that to a much deeper level. And then I'll kind of end with this, and I have a roadmap slide to show with you. But something that our customers have asked for years and years and years and years is to bring comments to SharePoint news articles. I know this like sounds so like, I don't know, 2020. And we know you guys have been asking for this. Our customers have for a really, really long time. So we're finally doing this. This is pretty exciting, but especially for those corporate communicators, we don't want them to have to choose where to post. They know they get the reach with using Engage versus or compared to some of the SharePoint news posts. But now the comments are going to stay with the SharePoint news post. There's a lot of complexity in the background to make sure it's not a copy of the comments and things like that we'll have to do. But you can see like full fidelity, same comments, same analytics, kind of coming in together. This is taken a long time, but we're something that we're really excited about. We said it was a SharePoint birthday present for them, and for us too. So you get the full fidelity of the SharePoint news and then the comments and conversations. So a lot of times my customers are like, well, what do I post and engage versus SharePoint? Or how do I do this? This kind of eliminates that question because it kind of doesn't matter. And, we're kind of basing it off of the reach. So we're really excited about that. Okay. All right. I'll just end with this. We've got lots coming. I've showed you a lot of different things, kind of bounced around a little bit, but just know that like our team, especially now being a part of the teams world, we've got a lot of stuff going on. I know a lot of times there's rumors or like if you don't hear of anything, you're just like, what are the team working on? But we're working on a lot of different aspects. One, to support that corp comms and that broadcast, but two, the two-way conversations, the communities and teams piece, and kind of bringing it all together too. So lots of investment happening. I know sometimes people are like, there's nothing else happening besides Copilot. And I know that, and I feel that too. And also know that there's a lot of stuff kind of in the background happening too. Yeah. Right. Questions? Yeah. 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 Uh, I don't know yet how I feel about that. The question is about what's the tie-in to like external social, like LinkedIn and things like that. Here's what I can tell you is now our big boss is Ryan Rolensky, the former CEO of LinkedIn. So if I could imagine, there are going to be things that the teams world learns from consumer, that he is going to have a very interesting perspective of, what worked at LinkedIn and how and what are those things that we can learn from a teams and an office product group perspective. So I think there's probably going to be some really interesting pieces. We were on a call with him this morning and they're kind of doing the, dog and pony show. And somebody asked a similar question. And, he said, there are just some things that we like, in the teams world, we just, not that, how am I trying to say it? Not that we've gotten comfortable with, we just accept in a teams world because we're enterprise users and whatever, but in a social consumer world, people would just leave, right? Like they just wouldn't come back. And so he's like, we want to be a product that people come back to and that they love, even though they have to, like they feel like they have to use it and they don't have any other choice. What that looks like from a social external perspective, I don't know. I think the LinkedIn team actually operates very separately at Microsoft. They're off in their own, they have their own tenants. They're still very, very separate. What I see our customers doing, especially if they have leadership comms who are super active on LinkedIn, they're now also kind of creating an internal version of whatever they're already posting. And then they get employee sentiment and employee view and employee kind of content and conversations where they can actually see that and like sort through all that comment and commentary on LinkedIn. So they're kind of getting like a double bang for their buck of like posting on LinkedIn and posting on the internal social piece. What I would say is I feel like it would almost be the opposite. If it's okay to post on LinkedIn, it would be okay to post internally, then vice versa. Like, I don't know how, if we want to make it that easy for people to post stuff internally, externally. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's been an ask for many years, and I think we'll just have to see. But with Ryan taking over, kind of, that was about 2 weeks ago, they appointed a new CEO of LinkedIn, and he's been kind of running the charge over the office group. I think it's going to be really exciting. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. Yeah.
Done.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay, good. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, good stuff.
Thank you.